Thank you, Mrs. D'Oliva. Okay, we're going to start right out with number 6, which is presentations and reports. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Cohen for Employees of the Month for October.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm delighted to share and recognize our Employees of the Month tonight. We have a certificate of recognition for each Employee of the Month and a token gift, a Patchogue-Medford throw blanket for each one of them. I'm going to begin with Karen Laredo Whaley, Bilingual Senior Office Assistant in our ENL office. Karen, would you please come down? Oh, yes, you have to be in the spotlight. That's part of it. I'll ask you to wait right over there to the left of the table. So, Karen, you received multiple nominations for this recognition because you consistently, that's good, Karen, don't go too far. Because you consistently go above and beyond your responsibilities to ensure the smooth operations of the department. You provide exceptional support to the staff and families, helping to reassure them during what can be a very stressful and difficult enrollment process. Your positive attitude, ability to communicate, reaffirms parents and truly helps to make for a positive transition into our school district. We're delighted to celebrate your undeniable contributions tonight. Congratulations on this recognition. I'll ask that you just wait down there, Karen, until we recognize everybody else. Congratulations. Next up, Dr. Razilowitz, principal at our high school. Dr. Razilowitz, come on down. So, Dr. Razilowitz, you were nominated by a member of your staff for your exceptional mentorship and unwavering dedication to students. Specifically, it was cited that last year you had a very difficult student who was making poor choices and felt lost. The student had reached out to you for guidance after resisting interventions from others. Your mentorship left an indelible mark on the student's life. You helped the student recognize the importance of making positive choices. And your intervention, I'm going to read this, reminds us of the tale of the starfish. And I think it's important to read this if you don't know the story. The story goes, it all started when a young girl was walking along a beach, I promise to be quick, upon a beach upon which thousands of starfish had been washed up during a terrible storm. When she came to each starfish, she would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. People watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for some time when a man approached her and said, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at the beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't begin to make a difference." The girl seemed crushed, suddenly deflated. But after a few moments, she bent down, picked up another starfish, and she hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. Then she looked up at the man, and she replied, "Well, I made a difference for that one." This story reminds us that even if we only reach one student, the impact is profound and transformative. You changed the trajectory of this student's path in a meaningful and productive manner. Way to make a difference, Dr. Razilowitz. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Before you go on, Dr. Cohen, I just want to comment that I too want to commend Dr. Razilowitz on this particular situation. I know of more than one. I know of many, but with passion and dedication and, a little risk with moving the agenda through and showing a lot of care and concern, he definitely changed a life, and I witnessed it. A number of us witnessed it, and it was truly something to celebrate and know that it's one of many, that it takes a lot of time and dedication to turn a life around and literally watch the child transform. So I celebrate and congratulate you for that and so many other accomplishments, Dr. Razilowitz.
Okay. Next up is Christopher Schieffer, teacher at Oregon Middle School. Come on up, Chris. I think at this point, Chris needs no introduction. He's been featured on worldwide news stories and local news, but just to tell the story, on October 9th, a student in Chris's class was choking on a gumball. Chris reacted with, just very impactful immediately. He gave 3 powerful thrusts using the Heimlich maneuver on that student, dislodged the gumball, and then used the rest of the time in class as a teachable moment. Chris, the story has resonated around the globe at this point, and really we're just so proud of your efforts. And you saved this student's life, and we really appreciate that we have staff members like you that will step in and intervene when a crisis arises. Congratulations. I invite the board and Dr. Jones up to take a picture.
And we do also have a certificate of appreciation for you, Mr. Schiefer, for your heroism. I can barely speak tonight, for what you did, because there, but for the grace of God, go any of us, not only our children, but any of us could just be eating a piece of candy and something like this happens. And the right person being in the right place at the right time makes all the difference. And to make it a teachable moment beyond that, when most would still be kind of recovering from the trauma of what just transpired, makes it all the more impactful. You are so deserving of this and so much more. We appreciate you. We celebrate you. We celebrate all 3 of our employees of the month. And we just thank you for all that you do. Sure.
You don't mind. Here,
Oh,
there, what do you want?
wherever you'd like.
I've never been accused of needing a microphone. But,
Oh, okay.
In my role as legislator, I'm also the chair of Suffolk County Fire Rescue and Emergency Services, with 27 years in the field of pre-hospital care. Seconds count. The very moment that an airway becomes obstructed and oxygen starts being deprived to the brain, it is wildly important that everybody learns CPR. Wildly important that everybody learns the foreign body airway obstruction maneuver. I heard about this, which is very near and dear to my heart because it's an EMS call. And I wanted to come out here on behalf of the county legislature, of 1.5 million residents, and honestly a Patchogue-Medford resident myself, here in Patchogue, and present you with a proclamation from the County of Suffolk on a job well done, and you are deserving of praise, sir. Thank you, folks.
on to letter B of presentations and reports, and that will be board recognition. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Jones.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. At this point in the meeting, we pay tribute to the most amazing Board of Education that we can imagine. They don't always realize how amazing they are because they've not worked anyplace else but Patchogue-Medford. But some of us have, and we can appreciate all they are and all they do for this community. And so without further ado, before I just hand it over to our legislators who are here to make presentations to the board, we have a number of staff, community members here. I just want to tell you on behalf of the entire staff how appreciative we are to you for all that you do, all the sacrifices, all the late hours, all of the unpaid work. It's unpaid for those of you who didn't know. They don't get paid for their service. We do have, I know I gave the board some things on homecoming, but we do have an umbrella for each of you this evening, a Patchogue-Medford umbrella. I know, we're in a drought. It was a good idea at the time, sorry. But we do have that for whenever it does decide to rain again. And so we have a number of legislators, and I want to make sure I go in the appropriate order here. New York State Senator Dean Murray is here, or represent. I'm sorry? Okay, very good. New York State Assemblyman Joseph DeStefano, I know I saw him.
Good evening. Mostly everybody in this room knows that I am a alumni of Patchogue-Medford, class of '78, and I'm sorry that my predecessor up there, Mr. Logan, decided to call it quits, but I know we'll have a great time with Teresa. She's going to be fine. And being a volunteer myself, and all the time it takes to be a volunteer, as a fire commissioner, there's a lot of hours that go into it, and I see your school board at every event that I attend that I'm welcome to come to, and it makes me so proud to be part of this school district, that I live in this. I raised my family in this school district, and I can't tell you how proud I am to know that my children got the best education they could possibly get, and it's because of the school board that we have in place here. And I know it's an elected position just like mine is, but the thing of it is the extra effort that you put in to make sure that our children get the best quality of education, and I am so proud that I am part of that with you all. Congratulations, and we do have some certificates for everybody, so I'll wait until everybody gets done. But thank you for what you do, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Assemblyman DeStefano. New York State Assemblyman Jared Gandolfo? No? Oh, he dropped his certificate, so we will move on and thank him for his certificates. We know Legislator Dominic Thorne is here. You're back up again. Oh, yes, County Executive Ed Romaine is here. I think he takes precedent on this one.
Congratulations. Are you Senior Vice President? Chief. Thank you. He just got promoted today. It's a news day. By Blood and Cancer. He's the top governmental representative for Blood and Cancer. So congratulations, Guido. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been here in the past as Brookhaven Town Supervisor. It was always my pleasure to thank the members of the school board. You don't get paid. You go to a ton of meetings, and then you've got to figure out how to do budgets. Budgets when health care rises, budgets when pension cost goes, and you've got to try to do your best for the taxpayer of Patchogue-Medford while providing the quality of education as our student population, which Newsday pointed out so adequately on Sunday, has changed. So now English as a second language, people from a lot of different cultures, that You have to bring together and do what American education has done since it was founded, which is bring us all together. From many, one, which is, in Latin, slogan of this country. Thank you for what you do. I'm not going to take a long time. I just brought certificates, and it's my way of saying thank you because you don't get thanked enough for the job you do. You do a great job. You have a big district. You have a lot of responsibility. You don't get paid for it, but it's a dedication to the community and the dedication to knowing that education can change lives, and you are providing a tremendous educational experience. So, Superintendent, thank you. School board members, I'm going to leave this with the superintendent. She's going to give you each one, and it's my thank you card for what you do. I have a lot of things, and I just came from an event and going to another event, but I didn't want to miss this because I had done it as supervisor. And I think it's important to thank members of the school board for their service, because when you don't do that, there will come a time when no one will want to be on a school board, and that will be a sad time. And the fact that we have so many good people who have volunteered, average citizens who want to grapple with the issues that you have to grapple with to provide a quality education. Incredible. Thank you for what you do, all of you, and special thanks to the superintendent who has the headache of making sure it all runs. Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
I'll come down that line too.
Thank you so much. These are not trustees down this way, but if you
Would
want
they
to.
help out?
Yes.
Are you kidding? I was going to say, where's Dennis? But I know he retired.
He retired, yes.
Wow, nice.
Oh, well, all righty then.
She's spunky.
So I have protocol-wise now. May I call Dominique Thorne back up, legislator Thorne?
Well, I'm
Thank you,
certainly
Tia.
happy that my friend and colleague, the county executive, would not be long-winded. But, so every year I come to these things as being elected because it is important. It is important to say thank you. It is important to spend the time to realize what you all do. As another elected official, I have to say you're out of your minds for doing it for free, but congratulations for doing it. We have a very unique district, and the county executive touched on it. We have many different people that come to our schools with very different needs. Some of economic strength and some of economic depression. Some with opportunities that have been given to them and some that have none. Then you have emergencies that come along. I saw Dr. Jones at an emergency that happened in our district. And the first choice is to get the kids out of the way. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. When emergency strikes or a choking child in our classroom or an outside threatens our schools and our kids, this board, all of you, respond with swift action that saves lives. I know recently we were at Bay Avenue School presenting them with a check for $2,500 additional for their agricultural projects in their school. It is always good when I get to come home to my hometown as a legislator and say, hey, we've got something else for you because you're doing something else right. So I also have these pieces of paper. The county exec have quite a bit more money than I do, so don't bend these because they will break. But all kidding aside, you are deserving of this, but more importantly, the gratitude of every taxpayer in our county, and especially in the Patchogue-Medford School District. I thank you all for your hard work, especially folks like my neighbor, Miss Kreger. I got to give her a plug. She's my neighbor. I have no choice. I also have proclamations. We'll give them out at one point when we're all doing that. But thank you very much. Keep up the good work, and know that your county government is here, and we are engaged, and I will always be engaged in the school district. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Legislator Thorne. You know, as I prepare to call our Councilman Neil Foley up, it is truly wonderful when you have a working rapport with our legislators. I see our legislators all the time. They are always at our events. They were at homecoming. I see Joe DiStefano at every show that we have. I see you all the time, all of you, all the time, and that is a wonderful partnership that we are very fortunate to have. So without further ado, I call up our Councilman Neil Foley.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I know my colleagues have said thank you, and I could say the same thing, but I also want to say thank you to your families. When you give yourself to the public, you take away your own time with your family, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. As a former high school history teacher, I understand what you do and the impact you make on people's lives. People don't realize, my own children, we have 4, spend more time with their educators than sometimes with their own parents because they're so busy with events. So you truly are making great strides in people's lives, and you're changing people's lives. So thank you so much. Enjoy your night.
And last but never, ever least, Pam Julian Peterson. Did I say it right? Pam Peterson. I'm sorry, Pam. Who is one of the hardest working PTA members and our new president of the now active council, which we're very, very excited about, is here to present to the board as well.
Thank you. All these tall men. I'm definitely honored to be following these impressive gentlemen who do so much for our community. But I'm also honored to be here every month with you and to serve on your committees and to know you for a very long time. And not only do you represent this community, but you're a friend. And I truly, truly cherish and appreciate each and every one of you. I do have a gift, but nobody's handing out. Is it appropriate for me to hand the gift out now? Okay. So.
Never refuse a gift.
Yes, thank you. I don't have citations, but I do have appreciations. And there are names on, that Francis is in here.
Do you want us to help with this? Pam, if you give it to us.
This is, okay, that's,
Tom's not here.
want to pick it up there? Okay, so this is Francis.
Thank you.
Let her gift wrap all my presents. Oh, those, and that's theirs. Wait, Kellyanne. This is so nice. It's my theme, you gotta open it. You
Thanks,
want us
baby.
to open it now?
I get it's right there.
Okay. You can. You can. It's so beautifully wrapped.
So good.
Well, my first job as a teenager was at Sweezy's gift wrapping.
Oh, there you go.
So, Sweezy's gift wrapping, but thank you. You can open it, yes. Thank you for all that you do. And this is from PTA Council, and I know that PTA Council is new again, but PTA Council, these gifts are from every PTA. They're on behalf of all the PTAs. So the way that council works is when we present something like this, it's presented from council, but we do take a vote on it, we discuss it. So this is on behalf of all the PTAs district-wide. Thank you.
if I may just for a moment, to our esteemed guests, elected officials, which include Mrs. Peterson, who is the president of the council, our community members. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for your recognition of our efforts and dedication to this community. Your acknowledgement not only inspires us, but also reinforces our commitment to serving with integrity, pride, and respect for everyone. Once again, thank you for your kind words and your recognition. Yeah, can we take a picture with all the people that came to spend time with us tonight?
You want to do it that way? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's a great idea. Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, cool, we'll branch a gun then.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, somebody left their phone here. Mine looks the same.
That's right, Veterans Night. Okay, thank you again, everybody, for your recognition of the board and the work that we do for our community. Next, I'd like to move on to item C under presentations, which would be the new website update presented by Executive Director of Technology, Mr. James Richroth. Are we blocking? Can you see? Thank you.
So thank you for allowing me this opportunity to showcase our new website. The last time I was able to present to everyone was at the August board meeting, where we gave kind of a sneak peek of what it would look like. And one of the things that we did highlight at that meeting is that this is a process that has taken roughly about 2 years with the help of our technology subcommittee. They worked endlessly to showcase other districts, to look at other districts, see what they're doing, what they're highlighting, and then kind of looking at our own district website and see areas of improvement, areas of highlight for us, areas that should be showcased. And then after we did that, we kind of looked at the data. So we looked at the different analytics that we can pull to see what pages are frequented most. So keeping that in mind, we designed this web page to highlight those areas that were visited most. So this will be the new main page. This is a video that I will showcase later. Over the last 6 months or so, we've had a videographer firm come in and take different videos at different events. So we have graduation, we had prom on Main Street, we had different days at the elementary schools, at the middle schools, and at the high school. And we had drone footage taken at graduation as well as at some of our buildings to showcase them as well. So on the main page at the top, you'll see our navigation has changed a bit. The first one being our schools, which lists out all the district schools for easy navigation, as that was one of the biggest complaints and frustrations that we heard from the community, was getting to the individual school web pages as quickly as possible. So we added a drop down specific for those. As we move across, We go to our school district, which has some other important information. I want to highlight data privacy, as that is a very, very hot topic that we wanted to make sure that we highlight. So on that page, we have FERPA, we have the Freedom of Information Act, and we also have our ed law and data privacy policies. Moving further, we have Board of Education, where we have our board policies, meeting minutes, recordings, trustee information. We go further to departments. We highlight some specific departments that were at the top of what was viewed by our community members: athletics, arts, and my favorite, technology. And of course, food services for menus. Moving across that, parent resources, we wanted to highlight some areas that parents were going to most frequently. So those being the district calendar, academic resources, central registration, guides, policies, and improvements plans, and then health, safety, and awareness. And finally, a new one with one of Dr. Jones's superintendent goals is community engagement. So we wanted to highlight those areas as well. So adult education, facilities use, our family center, Friends of Art and Music Education, the different press releases that are put out, and then the PTA and SEPTA information, highlighting them front and center. As we scroll down the main page, we updated our quick links, the most utilized pages on our website. You can see ClassLink. Teachers and students use this multiple times a day. Again, highlighting the calendar, trying to make the calendar as forefront as possible, because that is one of the top pages that were sought out. Parent Square for parent communication, food menus, employment opportunities, student-parent technology resources, and finally the Family Center. As we scroll further down, we highlight our press releases, with the most recent one coming out today. South Ocean Middle School celebrates 100th anniversary, so it gives us an opportunity to show a nice picture. If we click on it, it'll open up and be able to give you the full story of it. And then at the bottom, there are some more pictures that highlight the 100th anniversary celebration as well. As we scroll further down the page, we'll have more news and events. So we have the Raider Connection September newsletter, and then the other news items that we see. So the Board of Education meeting tonight is taking place, information from the Chief Privacy and Chief Information Security Officer, and that will be where our normal news items are. On the right of that is kind of, again, highlighting calendar items, upcoming events, what is happening over the next few days there. To highlight some specific pages, at the top, we're going to have our intranet. This is what employees use to get to employee-specific areas. After that, again, registration, because we want to make sure that we make it easily accessible for families to register. And then again, highlighting the district calendar. So if we click into the district calendar, we'll be able to see kind of a new look and feel to it, where you can filter out specific things. So if you only wanted to see dramatic performances, you can filter only those out. You'll be able to filter out specific athletic events, specific Board of Education events, and then specific school events. All are color-coded to make it easier for you to see. If you want, you click into one of them, and it'll open up a little window, and it'll give you more information, location of it, where it's taking place, and if there's any additional information that's necessary. Additionally, at the top, you can subscribe to it, and you can subscribe to specific calendars. So if you're a parent at Bay Elementary and you're only interested in Bay Elementary events, you can subscribe to those events, and you'll be able to see it on your phone and update like that. So you'll always be in the know of what's happening, and it will update automatically as we update it on the district website. Another cool feature about this is this list view, where it'll give you a list. So if you needed to print the events, or you wanted to put something on your refrigerator at home, you can print all the specific events in a list form, and you could filter those as well for specifics. Any questions on any of that stuff so far? Yes?
How is the search bar? Is it accurate? Is it good?
Yep.
Like if you search driver's ed?
Yeah, the search bar is much more accurate than the current website.
Internal search bar now?
It is, yep. Correct, yep. Yep.
Where is our email?
So that'll be in the intranet. You'll go to your staff, yep.
Okay.
We'll put that, yep. Anything else? Correct, yeah. So once we push out the new website and start sending notifications, that's one of the things we'll say is if you're currently subscribing to one of our calendars, you'll need to go and resubscribe again, because we've changed the different categories and the different calendar options that are available.
James,
Yes.
show the video.
Yep, I'll show the video.
One second.
Sure.
Mr. Richroth, I'm on this committee, and you stole my thunder, so I just
Sorry.
want to share that. But I would like you to expand, for those who may be interested, on the athletic calendar and what you talked about on how it could become more interactive for athletic families.
Sure. So in working with the Director of Athletics, Anthony Kracko, we're looking at creating individual calendars for each of the sports teams. So a parent can look at a calendar for JV football or whatever it may be, instead of having to cycle through all the different sports to filter out for that specific sport.
That's awesome.
But also being able to subscribe to it. So if there is an update to it within an hour, it'll appear on their phone.
Thank you.
Yep. Correct, yeah, so the intranet is going to be the internal stuff, so that's going to be kind of where like our payroll stuff is, our accounting stuff and things like that, stuff the external people wouldn't see. So if we go back to the district webpage, and then we'll show a video. So we had this video created. It'll loop for 30 seconds, and then it'll restart, and it'll be a full 3-minute video after that. The reason it does that is just for bandwidth purposes, so it loads quickly for people who visit the website. But we tried to highlight as many different areas of the district as possible with it. And then, of course, in the bottom right is the translation features that are available.
Is there sound in the video?
No sound, yep. So it just restarted after 30 seconds, and now it'll play again, and it'll be a full 3-minute video. So this is drone footage of the secondary schools.
Is it a full view?
No, yeah, it's just like the banner video at the top. Correct. So we had 2 videos produced so that we can switch them every 6 months, and then hopefully the goal is to continue creating new videos highlighting different areas. One of the areas that was brought up at the committee last week was to try and highlight some CTE programs and things like that, something different. Because we highlighted music here.
But one of the issues is, or it's not an issue, but because we are so active on social media these days and in Parent Square, we thought we would do something very engaging here for the website and continue to provide other updates between, the other social media platforms and parent information sharing platforms.
So the video will keep playing, and then hopefully after 6 months or so, we'll replace it with the second video we had created. And then also just continuously having that videographer come in and shoot different events, so we always have kind of new and active footage to utilize for these purposes.
Is it an option to add sound eventually?
So you can, they just advise against it because it becomes that frustrating tab that you don't know where the sound is coming from. I mean, we could add sound. I mean, I could put it on YouTube, and that's the goal is with this too, is for this video, once we kind of filter it out, not for it to go away, because they are good quality videos, and the students like seeing themselves, and teachers as well, where we can post them to our YouTube channel, and if we want to put music with it, we can put music with it. And then the other thing to highlight is on the Our Schools page, the other biggest complaint that we received is contact information, is parents being able to find contact information quickly. So on the main page of all the individual school web pages, we've put the most contacted offices, tenant's office, child care office, main office, nurse, psychologist, social worker. Also, for the reason being is the main office probably gets overwhelmed very early in the morning asking to be transferred to these areas. So we tried to highlight contact information as much as possible. So we have this for each of the individual schools, but also at the bottom, we have a who do I contact list. We put this together a few years ago. So we really want to highlight that, where if a parent is not sure where to go, they kind of know what steps they need to take and who to contact in what situation.
And I think it's important here because one of the things that we have continually tried to reinforce is the protocol. So this is the protocol of the steps and the order in which you should be progressing through the chain of command.
And then the last thing from the committee that they really liked was the PTA and SEPTA information, is having all this information corralled in one location. So for every school, you're going to have all of your PTA information, contact information if they have an email address with us, and then all the board members as well. And then we did the same for SEPTA as well at the bottom, so they have all of their information and anything that they've asked for us to post.
Is the council on there?
It's at the top. I don't have this information for it, but yes, we can add whatever they'd like as well.
Yep. Pam?
Yeah, I got it. I got whatever we had on the current website, but of course, anything that you need us to update, we can always. Yep. Additionally add. Yep. Absolutely. We could probably utilize some of their footage. The real tricky part is the editing. That's where we really want it. And the companies don't mind doing it because they imported other videos that we gave them from the musical and stuff like that. But they want to be able to do some of that as well. But I think as we move forward, we should hopefully incorporate some of the student videos as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's great. Is there any, like, how are we getting like this out to now everyone? So is there a video that could be made and posted on maybe Facebook showing the new website? Because not everyone's here, so
Sure.
how would we get that out so everyone knows? Because this is great.
Thank you. So the plan is, hopefully, we're looking to launch sometime at the beginning of November. So we'll be sending out this link to everybody here so you guys can review it in depth, pose any suggestions that you have, and then we'll present to admin council because we do need some input from principals and directors still for their specific pages. Once we do that, one of the teachers at South Ocean actually has a club that I was hopefully going to have engage them and ask if they could create kind of like promotional materials and things like that for us. Thank you. Awesome.
Any other questions, trustees? Thank you, James.
Thank
Great
you, Mr.
job
Ritual.
to
Thank you.
James and to the committee. It's a major, major undertaking that Trustee Snow has been in the works for a number of years. Really did.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Richroth. All right, moving on to item number 7, report by ex officio student member Ella McCann.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to see you all, and welcome to the October 28th business meeting. I am the ex officio student member of the Board of Education. My name is Ella McCann, and I will be discussing what has been going on in our buildings from the beginning of September to now. Since our last meeting, Eagle Elementary held a ribbon-cutting ceremony. All schools participated in the homecoming parade. Oregon Middle School held a Unity Day and a recycling assembly. Eagle and Tremont Elementary hosted fun-filled events. The high school's marching band performed at Newsday, and we celebrated homecoming. Eagle Elementary held a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Thursday, September 19th, to reveal their new entrances. One of Ms. Cahill's long-held dreams has been to make the main entrance a true focal point, recognizable from afar and the symbol of pride as we have in our community. She shares it embodies our rich and diverse community, which she has dreamed of showcasing. Our schools are tapestries of unique cultures, traditions, and backgrounds, and Ms. Cahill is committed to ensuring this vibrancy is represented in every aspect of the campus. On October 18th, South Ocean hosted an exciting pep rally where students participated in a variety of challenges and activities designed to boost school spirit. The energy was as electric as everyone who came together to cheer on our teams and celebrate our school pride. Also, on September 26th, South Ocean celebrated its 100-year anniversary in style. The South Ocean PTA treated our students to delicious pizza and ices as they enjoyed dancing to lively music from our DJ. Everyone also took a moment to appreciate our stunning new mural created to honor a century of this beautiful building. It was a joyous occasion filled with fun and celebration. Eagle students and staff showcased their school spirit with a week of fun-filled events during homecoming. Starting Spirit Week with a staff flag game, the students loved watching their teachers participate in a fun, competitive game. Additionally, students and staff enjoyed dressing up as their favorite book characters, and we wrapped up their week with the homecoming parade with an impressive Eagle family and staff turnout. Truly, nobody does homecoming like Pat Med. Tremont, Oregon Middle School, and Medford Elementary's monthly scholars and staff and principals also participated in homecoming. Also, in the October faculty meeting, the Medford elementary teachers learned the power of differentiation firsthand. South Ocean and Oregon Middle School hosted their annual Anti-Bullying Unity Day, where the school wears orange to stand together against bullying. Unity Day is an annual event occurring during the National Bullying Prevention Month that promotes joining together to create a healthier community through guidance, acceptance of difference, and inclusion. The color orange is associated with visibility, safety, and vibrance, which makes an impactful statement throughout our school district. Also at Oregon Middle School, Mr. Sundal and Ms. Wood invited the town of Brookhaven representatives to speak to students about the importance of recycling. The students also created posters to be entered into a contest and thoroughly enjoyed their educational insights. This also inspired them to consider the impact of their choices on the environment and how it affects their health and well-being for others. Additionally, PMHS senior cosmetology students had a wonderful experience providing manicure services to the patients at the Brookhaven healthcare facilities. Great job, everybody. Eagle Elementary had their fire safety assembly on October 2nd. Thank you to the Medford Fire Department for teaching our students about fire safety and prevention. Also, 4 of our Eagle scholars voluntarily utilized their recess period to create a presentation for their peers about expectations at recess, and many of the students are working hard in their complex math skills. The presentation included messages about being kind, staying safe, and having good sportsmanship. We are so proud of their hard work and leadership. Tremont Elementary is working on using rubrics to improve our writing, and including the 4th grade bio programs Glows and Grows. 5th grade has completed their study of volume. As an accumulation of their math unit, they are now designing and creating robots while computing their volume. These robots are now displayed in the main lobby. Also, a successful PTA-sponsored trunk or treat event was held on October 25th. Thank you to all involved. Congratulations to the Patchogue-Medford High School Band on their performance at Newsday, the High School Marching Bands Festival on October 25th. What a lovely and fun-filled night to remember. And lastly, congratulations to all involved in homecoming. Truly, nobody does homecoming like Pat Med. We are so proud of the beautiful floats, hilarious skits, and spirit throughout homecoming week. Congratulations to the class of 2025 for winning homecoming and weekend festivities. It was truly one to never forget. Thank you. Here's to another great month of involvement, support, and spirit.
Thank you, Ella. Bring up the lights. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Number 8, we're going to do the annual audit report, which will be presented by our audit committee chair, Phil Reiling, and R.S. Abrams accounting firm, Brendan Nelson. Thank you.
So good evening to the board and to the members of the community.
You want to use the mic, Phil?
Good evening to the board and the members of the community. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our external audit team.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brendan Nelson. I'm a partner at R.S. Abrams. We are your current independent external auditors. So each year we are performing your financial statement audit and then issuing our opinion on that audit report. So I do want to preface this brief presentation here to just let all of you know, as the board, we did meet with the audit committee back on, I believe it was October 17th. We discussed every report that we're going to touch on here in detail with the committee. We had a nice PowerPoint presentation that was pretty extensive that we went through with them, but fortunately for you, we're going to save you from having to sit through that entire PowerPoint. But if anyone has any questions at the end, please don't hesitate. I'd be more than happy to address them. So as any other year previously, there are 4 total documents that we issue. There's your basic financial statements, which is probably an 80-some-odd page report now, and it's continually growing. Then there is a separate standalone financial statement on your extra classroom activity funds. So that's all of your student clubs and the monies that they're raising through fundraising throughout the year. So 2 separate reports that we're opining on. And then there are 2 communication letters that we issue each year, one being the management letter and one being what's referred to as a governance letter that speaks to some elements that go into the compilation of the financial statements themselves. So to start off with the actual opinions that we are providing, so on both reports, so both the district-wide financial statements as well as the extra classroom report, the district is receiving what's called an unmodified opinion. So this essentially is what's referred to as a clean opinion. Basically, it's the best opinion that a local government, a school district can get. So essentially that means that through our audit procedures and our endless list of questions and emails to Frank and his team, we were able to obtain a sufficient level of assurance that the financial statements as they are presently compiled are not materially misstated in any way. So again, unmodified opinions on both those reports, clean opinions. In terms of the overall internal controls of the district, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, nothing of that nature. In that management letter, there was one minor thing that we did communicate, to the committee, and that will be communicated to the board, related to capital asset monitoring. So just tracking and adding some fixed asset equipment items throughout the year to make sure that they do wind up in the financial statements themselves. Just an overall reporting issue, but the district was well aware. Those couple of minor items were corrected and are present in those financial statements. Okay. In terms of the prior year comments, so there were, I believe, 2 comments last year. Both of those comments have been either substantially implemented or are in process. So the district has historically always been very proactive in addressing and implementing any recommendations that we do give, which is great to see. Just a quick nugget on the overall financial position, let's say. So the district's general fund, which is their main operating fund, that does abide by that voter-approved budget. So the general fund's unassigned fund balance, so this is a pretty important fund balance classification that every school district has. This is essentially your savings account, so it's your available monies that can be spent on any emergencies, anything that may come up that may be unforeseen, or any shortfalls on your revenue side of the budget, things like that. So the unassigned fund balance as of the end of this year, so at June 30th, 24, was right around $9.6 million. And the reason I bring this up is because this amount is limited in New York State to 4% of your next year's budget. So as it's currently listed, that $9.6 million is just shy, but right at that 4% limit. So it's at about 3.97%. So that is a figure that most districts, if not all, do strive to maintain in that unassigned fund balance. So the district is right there at 3.97%. Overall, the books were in great shape for us. We identified no adjustments, so no audit adjustments that we had to propose to Frank and his team, which is, again, pretty rare. We do about 45 of these a year, and I would say I could count on one hand how many of these situations we have where there's no adjustments that we've identified during our audit. So again, that does speak to the overall job of the business office. So we do want to thank Frank Mazzi and the rest of his team in the business office for all their hard work. And I think that's it in terms of my summary. So if anyone has any questions or comments on any of the reports, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
As I sit on that audit committee, everything was comprehensive and explained to the smallest detail for our understanding. And I'm proud to say that, continuously year after year, we get the same type of report. So thank you very much.
Thank you to RS Abrams. They do a great job as external auditors. And the fact that, Frank, your staff, we're very fortunate to have a good administrative staff, and it's led by you guys. You do a terrific job. We also had the internal auditors come in, and our financial state is in very good shape for our school district, and we're very lucky to have the people that we have running it and reporting it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Leva, can you read the recommended motion for the audit report for 24?
Whereas R.S. Abrams and Company has submitted an annual audit report for operations of the Patchogue-Medford School District for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Now resolved that a copy of the said report is hereby received and shall be filed with the New York State Education Department, and be it further resolved that the Assistant Superintendent for Business shall file a certified copy of this motion with the Office of the Auditor.
Thank you. Can you call for a roll call vote?
Vice President Andrade?
Yes.
Trustee Jennings?
Yes.
Trustee Krieger? Yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
President Negrin?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you very much. Ally did a great job presenting.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 9, which would be public comments on reports and agenda items limited to 3 minutes per person, to total no more than 60 minutes entirety, with no sharing of minutes by residents.
Good evening. Now I'm speaking as a community member, not as PTA. So that's something very important that needs to be stated. But as myself, I want to thank you for your service, for your school board, and for all that you do for us. I truly appreciate everything you do, and I know all the hard work that goes in. Dr. Cohen was telling about a story about a starfish before, and 16 years ago, my oldest daughter was at South Ocean, and there was a lot going on in our lives. And that principal there took my little starfish and took care of her. And I am so thankful to Dr. R, because then he wound up following her to the high school. And I see him sitting next to Mr. Hanley, who took my other starfish, who is also going through the same thing. And they were there for my daughters, not just as students, but as children in their school. And they took such good care of them that I never had to worry about them being in school and the situations that were going on. And when you read that starfish, it just hit me so hard. And when I saw Dr. R's name on here, I have so much respect for him and for all the administrators, and I just wanted to say thank you to him again, and congratulations. And just quickly, finally, I am so grateful also that they took care of our freshmen with the float and homecoming, because it was tough to get advisors, and Mrs. Space, and Mrs. McGordy, and Miss Rome, and Miss Pukalowski, they all stood up and got help from parents and everybody, and they kept on that tradition that was so important. So all 3 of my starfish have been touched by somebody in this community and somebody in this school district that I love, and I want to thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. First of all, I would like to say congratulations to each and every one of you. I know how dedicated you are and how hard you work and the countless hours that you volunteer and put into this community. I know firsthand because I'd like to also congratulate my brother Joe Loshavo as being one of you for 15 years on this Board of Education. So I know firsthand the calls that you get midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning from parents. So thank you. I appreciate all that you do. And the other reason why I'm here is because I would like to speak very briefly about my scholarship that's very near and dear to my heart. Dare I say, I will be graduated from Patchogue-Medford High School next year, 50 years, a half a century. So when I sub at the high school and they let the students know that, they're like, really? I said, your third floor was not here. The new wing was not here. I said it was a 2-story, much smaller building. In my recollection, I was the first class to go all the way through what's now Patchogue-Medford High School from 9th grade through 12th grade when it was first built. My recollection of getting me to school was the buses trudging through inches and inches of mud because Buffalo Avenue was still a dirt road. Okay. Anyway, I would like to say thank you for letting me present my scholarship. This scholarship is very near and dear to me. And when I first had the thought, I would like to first thank my brother Joe for putting up with all of my crazy ideas. When I first came up with the idea, I said, I've got to meet with Dr. Jones because I need to tweak, get her opinion, see what she thinks. And she said, I think it's a lovely idea. Very good, but I'll put you in touch with Frank, Mr. Mazie, who fielded all of my questions, and it was a process, but we did it. And I just want to let you know that I think we'll be able to have it next year because that room was left spotless. I checked with the custodians at the very end. There was not one drop of paint anywhere, so I plan on continuing this every year. But anyway, so my scholarship is the class, as you know, class of 1975, 50th year anniversary scholarship for $500. The criteria is a student who has a passion for painting and will be attending a higher education art school, preferably the student has ties to a 1975 graduate when I graduated. So the paint night actually yielded, we had 27 painters, $15 for each person who painted. That was $405 for the scholarship. I decided we're going to have raffles and 50-50s, which yielded another $250, which comes out to $655. And our board president, Mr. Mark Negron, was not able to attend, but he said, I would like to donate. So he donated $30 to our scholarship, and I thank you for that. And the secretary at the high school said he's the cutest thing. She loved it. He went in and personally donated it to the high school, to that secretary. So anyone else who wants to donate, we will take donations. You make check payable to Patchogue-Medford USFD, and you take it to the high school, and they'll gladly accept your check. So scholarships, as you know, is. I just have one more thing to say, if you don't mind. Thank you. So the scholarship is actually $500. There is extra money. That money I'm going to give to the class advisor to do whatever she wants with that class, to that class as a gift for whatever she wants to do. And again, I will be doing this next year. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Oh, God, how do I follow that one? Good evening, Joseph Loshavo, resident of Medford. So many congratulations to be given out tonight. First of all, I would like to congratulate my sister on what she spoke about, 50th year scholarship. She truly is everything that you would envision the slogan, once a Raider, always a Raider, to come to mean. So congratulations to my sister Kathy for her hard work on that. And Frank, thanks again for approving that, as well as your excellent audit. Secondly, Teresa DeLiva, congratulations and welcome aboard. I think you were appointed 2 meetings ago. I was unfortunately unable to make both those meetings, so congratulations to you. You're going to do a wonderful job here. And congratulations to the board. You know the community is fully behind you. Very, very well-deserved accolades that you certainly richly deserve tonight. but I would like to highlight one board member, Ms. Kellyanne Jennings. Ms. Jennings, as I'm sure you know, serves on the BOCES board with me. And she is a great, great addition to that board, and it's an honor to serve with you on that board. You bring a fresh light, fresh vision to that board, and interesting times. We'll speak about that later. And I think the last thing I'm going to try to squeak in, which wasn't on the agenda, but I'm going to try to squeak it in anyway. Dr. Jones, you have proven yourself to this district many times over, but I think we're all very proud of you for, well, some of the community might not know, you presented at the New York State School Board Association. So we're all very proud of you for that, and thank you for that. You're a credit to this district, and thank you again to all of you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Joe.
Hi, good evening. My first time being here, so hello to all of you.
Can you just introduce your name?
Oh, my name's Heather DiCarlo.
Thank you.
I am a parent of multiple students in the Patchogue-Medford community. And I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it, but on this paper, there's a letter O, recommended approval of 3020-A, charges against district employee. So I'm just wondering how we would be notified as a parent if somebody was removed from the district. Would it be a final form? Would it be an email?
No.
Would the parents be notified at all?
No.
No. So under the education law, before a tenured teacher can be disciplined in any regard, there has to be a 3020A proceeding. Those proceedings remain confidential unless the teacher requests a public hearing. If they don't request a public hearing, they remain confidential, and they will remain confidential until there's a decision and finding. If there's a decision and finding the teacher guilty of any misconduct that's been charged, the guilt findings can then be made public. And then depending upon what penalty is imposed, that may become public knowledge thereafter. But until that time, it remains confidential throughout the entire time.
So it would be guilty at a public trial, not through DASA?
No, it would be guilty through a private trial, a confidential trial, unless the teacher specifically requests a public trial.
Okay.
Okay?
And how many times does somebody have to be found guilty by DASA before the policy takes action?
So DASA is disconnected from...
Not the same.
It's not automatic, no. DASA is a finding that there's been bullying, which may warrant a 3020A process. It may warrant some other form of addressing the issue, right? So sometimes it's a counseling memo, which is non-disciplinary, and other times it could be a disciplinary measure, which would result in a 3020A.
Okay,
All
thank
right?
you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Sherry Costello. It's always a fun meeting to come to when we get to have our representatives here to speak on behalf of our school and to hear all of the wonderful things that are going on. I enjoy the ex officio report every month, and I love hearing about homecoming, which was phenomenal, really, really great. Our kids love it, the community loves it, and nobody does it like us. My question is regarding one of the first read policies. I've been in touch with Mr. Kracko regarding policy 6145.6, the attendance, deportment, and academic eligibility for participation in extracurricular activities. I did work with him on this policy, and so I've had opportunity to read it and understand it thoroughly. And after speaking and emailing with him, I was under the impression that it's going to get pulled for a second reading, so it would not be voted on today. Is that information accurate?
Mayor?
Yeah, of course.
I know that Mr. Kracko and I discussed a modification that was necessary. I think it's the one you're referring to. I thought we made that adjustment, but even if we didn't, there's typically 2 readings so that we can modify it within the time frame before it's adopted.
So the recommendation to adopt the policy circulated for first reading that includes this one That one is not being adopted this evening.
So if the modification that was recommended is not incorporated, then it would not be adopted, and we can make that adjustment. But I thought that the adjustment that we were referring to was
So I guess my
changed.
question is a little bit related to policy then. If you put a policy forward for first reading, and then community or the school board or the district reads through it, finds additional modifications, at that point, it's not put forth for the community to review for a second time. It would just be voted on without additional eyes to take a second read look. I thought first policy, if it's exactly as is, you vote and it's approved, and maybe it's my misunderstanding, but second read would then come if changes happen.
The second reading, there can be, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, attorneys, my understanding is that it can come that you can make an adjustment between the first reading and the time it comes to second and still adopt it with that modification, not requiring a further meeting.
So today would be considered the second reading of a policy that was put forth last month?
It would be a second review. So if it was put up last month, it's only had last month, and then it would be approved next month.
Okay, so again, it is on here for approval tonight. Am I misunderstanding that? 6145.6.
It's up for first reading. It's right here. Recommended for first reading. 61. It's right here. It's up for first reading.
It says to adopt the policies which were circulated for first reading. It's very possible I'm misunderstanding. I'm not sure.
I thought it was on for adoption tonight. I thought that I had heard that there was something that needed to be adjusted that was minor in nature that Mr. Krakow had called my office on. If there is a question as to whether or not that was incorporated, I thought it was, but I'm happy to recommend that we hold it one more month to make sure it is incorporated. But is that okay?
My email was extensive, so.
Sorry, Jerry.
It's okay.
Extracurricular.
Yeah, we had talked about it, and we said it was circulated for first reading, and our meeting was at 10:09.
So unless we got that wrong.
So I will double check. It really, if it was circulated for a first reading in October, on October 7th, it should not be adopted tonight at all anyway. So I will double check that. So I would recommend holding that particular policy and recommended adoption with adjustments if necessary for the November meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry.
Speak to you in a few more minutes.
Any other comments? Okay, so we're going to move on to number 10, which would be the consent agenda. Okay. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Trustee Jennings made a motion to accept the agenda, and Trustee Smith seconded it.
Oh, they fixed it.
Roll call.
Vice President Andrade?
Yes.
Trustee Jennings?
Yes.
Sorry, Trustee Krieger?
I just still have a question. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to the trip.
Oh, the trip?
Yeah. Kelly said it was fixed, but what was fixed? I thought we were going to look into where the discrepancy between the
Costs, the
I thought
fees.
the cost of the club getaway?
That was a discussion in executive session. If you want to bring it into a public session, we can talk.
It's on here, that's why I'm asking before we approve it.
Right. So may I respond, Mr. President? So I think the conversation was that two of the middle schools had one price, which was $200 for the club getaway middle school trip, and one had $150. And I think Mrs. Kennedy had discussed that she would follow up to determine exactly why there was a cost discrepancy, but it had to do with the BOCES field trips.
I understand that. But
Yeah,
Kelly
I would
Kelly
just have
said
to
it was
follow-
fixed, but I'm looking at it, and I don't see it anywhere, and I was just wondering, do we need to pull that, or do we just,
Well,
approving it as is?
I would recommend that we approve so that we don't hold up the spots, that they don't miss the
Yeah.
spots. We can always provide the board and the community with an update to find out why specifically, and I'm not sure what Trustee Kellyanne Jennings had versus not had, but we can,
She's reading too many things.
yeah, we could double check that. I would recommend approving it so that the children don't lose the,
Okay, yeah, I just,
yes.
Saxton parent had read the tentative agenda online today and contacted me, so that's why I just.
I'll put it in the Friday update, but I believe it, as I said to the board, probably has to do with the BOCES. If we do field trips through cultural arts, some schools have money that they can offset because they've gone through multiple field trips than other buildings. So that's where you see the difference in prices. Each year you go through cultural arts, you get more money back, which allows you to reduce the cost for future field trips. So I will confirm that with South Ocean.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I understand that, I just thought I was missing an updated version of this
No,
somewhere. So.
no.
Okay. Okay, so yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
President Negrin?
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved.
Okay. Going to move on to item 11. We had no items removed from the consent agenda for a separate vote. Number 12, informational items, policy for first reading would be number 1111, public access to school district records. Number 13, actions arising out of executive session, there were none. So now we're going to move on to number. Which?
The charges.
Oh, yes, okay, I apologize. Yes, they were removed.
James.
We can move on to 14, right?
Yeah.
Moving on, item 14 would be superintendent's report. Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask James Richroth to pull up the most important thing. I do want to extend my gratitude to the Board of Education once again for their tireless efforts. This is a very brief presentation that I think was the most important thing for me to share this evening and for the community as well, to offer an opportunity for our students and to share an opportunity that I got, which was a full-paid scholarship to go to Panama for the purposes of learning and representing superintendents in the state of New York. There were 5 superintendents in the state of New York that were selected to go to Panama for the purposes of identifying ways that we can bring back a love of travel and global competency to the students of our respective districts and to share it with our colleagues and superintendents around the state. So, yes. When I'm done. Thanks. All right, next slide, please. So, next slide, please. All right, so a few discussion items: the scholarship learning opportunity, the program overview, the places that were explored, key takeaways, and next steps as to what it could mean potentially for the students in our district, and what we might be able to explore. Next slide, please. James. All right, so 25 superintendents from 7 states participated in this trip. The states from which superintendents came were Texas, Massachusetts, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Colorado, and New York. I'm in that picture, but you know, I'm kind of behind the one lady in the green, I'm behind her. Yes, next slide. Are we okay? Yeah. Okay. All right, so what was included in this itinerary? It was round-trip airfare. All of this was paid for. None of it, there was no cost to the district. Round-trip airfare, hotel, meals, tour director, transportation, expert local guides, guided sightseeing, and entrance to the landmarks. The goal was for me to participate as though I'm one of the students, and so that I could have the experience of a potential student and try to explore what this could feel like so that we could potentially bring this back to our district. Next slide, please. All right, so actually, this is, I guess you can call it kind of like a jungle experience, transformational program leadership overview. So it was a 5-day trip, October 10th through October 14th. It was designed to equip leaders with tools to expose students to global competency, explore educational innovation, connect with community, and take part in professional networking. I assure you, I was one of the participants with the backpack hiking in the jungle. Educational experiences included STEM service project where we cleaned up a beach in Panama, visit to an indigenous reservation, visit to recycling centers, visit to the Panama Canal, hike in the jungle, and a marine biologist wildlife tour. Next slide, please. Here I am kind of in the front row, maybe the 4th person over, but we had bags upon bags. These are just a few of the bags. I don't know why so much trash. It goes to the shore of these beaches, but we collected 4 different categories: bottles and styrofoam and shoes and clothes and all. It's just littered the entire beach. And we cleaned everything up, and they say in a few days it will wash up on the shore again. Next slide. So these are some of the things we saw, and these are live pictures: toucans in the jungle. This gentleman in the middle, we visited their tribe. Actually, his grandfather was the one from this tribe that trained Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, how to survive should he drop in the jungle. He had to know how to survive in a jungle or a desert when he first went up into space. And the ancestor of this gentleman here was the one who trained Neil Armstrong. And our friend the sloth over there was hanging from the tree, and this was very different for me. Next slide, please. So, proof I was there, in case you don't believe me. This was a jungle. This was a motorized canoe that actually took us into the indigenous reservation, where we learned all about them. Next slide, please. Beach cleanup. You have a view of Panama. We've talked about the jungle, but it's also a very built-up city. So it's like a tale of two cities, and you can see that they have a Burger King, they have all kinds of fast food restaurants in the city, but they also have a jungle. And of course, the Panama Canal, the bottom right, you see one of the, you have major ships going across, but you also have small carriers as well going by the Panama Canal. Next slide, please. Important takeaways. I'm keeping this brief for now. The importance of the project-based learning in action. So the thought about having a project, whether it's a science, a STEM class, a CTE, a history class that can culminate in some kind of trip for our students, no matter their ability to pay, is what I was trying to think about. The importance of networking was key. A lot of times our children and even adults, we stay within the cliques that are comfortable to us, and we as superintendents had to talk to people we didn't know. I complain about babysitting my grandpup, and I learned about a superintendent in Texas who has a farm where she has goats and chickens and cows, and she takes care of them before the day starts. So I quickly shut my mouth and was grateful to be able to give my grandpup back. Importance of networking, the importance of STEM now and for the future, exposure to cultural competence, impactful contrast of city and wildlife, and bringing history to life through travel. I want to pause here and actually show the tribal video, James, and then we can just wrap up the. How appropriate that the day before Indigenous People Day is where we shared this video. We can pause it. This was a celebratory type of dance that they do for maybe a wedding or some type of festivity. They did cook lunch for us, and so we had tilapia that they were able to get fresh for us to eat. Along with sweet plantains and what I normally call tostones, but they wrap them in banana peels, like banana tree leaves, and they served it beautifully to us that day. So next slide. So the next steps are, could this be a possible pilot? Is this something we can talk about? Exploring, developing a foundation that would afford our children the opportunity to have the benefit of travel, possible community partnerships, or start with travel to another state versus another country to learn about moments in history. Next step. So these are just different types of opportunities that this organization provides: STEM and CTE tours, language and culture tours, service learning, middle school tours, global student leadership summits, North American tours, and custom design tours. So EF Tours is an international company with thousands and thousands of employees, and they paid fully for this as I represented the Council of Superintendents in the state of New York on this endeavor. Next slide. So it's important to understand our goals and priorities. So coming back with filled with information and wanted to share with the board so that I could just see what you think about this and just kind of begin to process what this could mean for our children. Next step, next slide. So lastly, portrait of a graduate. If you look at some of the portrait of a graduate that was recently recommended by the Blue Ribbon Commission, effective communicator, global citizen, cultural competence, literate across the content areas, social emotional competence, critical thinker, and innovative problem solver. These are things that we believe that students of the future will need to be competitive in a global society. So building this thought into that is something that would really take our students to the next level. And we know it can't be all of them, but we can certainly think about some project-based learning that may benefit children. So I just wanted to bring this. I believe that was it. Next slide. That's the name of the company, Educational Tours. Next slide. Thank you, and I just wanted to see if there were any questions from the board.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Jones. That really looked like a really good program. My children have had the benefit of participating in educational tours, and I think if we could build that into this district so that it's not all on the parent to fund it, I think it's a great, something we should look into.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You have a good time?
Yeah, a little tired, but all good. Came back from that, went straight into homecoming, and left there and went straight from homecoming to school boards convention that night, presented on Tuesday at school boards, but was proud to represent the district and share the work we're doing. And I was thankful for so many trustees to be present at the presentation. It was a little bit shocking to the crowd to see so many trustees from the district there. So thank you for your continued support.
I just want to say I'm proud of you because that looks like it's a little out of your comfort zone.
Just a tad.
No high heels.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Whereas the superintendent of school has preferred charges against the employee named in a confidential Schedule A pursuant to Section 3020A of the New York State Education Law, and whereas the Board of Education has determined by a vote of the majority of all the members of the board that probable cause exists for the charges preferred against said employee by the superintendent of school. Be it resolved that the employee named in confidential Schedule A is hereby suspended with pay pending a hearing on the charges and the final determination thereof. And be it further resolved that should the employee named in executive session either waive his or her right to a hearing or be found guilty of the charges after a hearing, the Board of Education shall seek his or her termination from service in the Patchogue-Medford Union Free School District. Also.
Do we need roll call for that?
No, we did that already.
Okay, so good to go. Thank you, Teresa.
Do we need a vote? Sorry.
Yeah, second one. This is the second one.
They could do it, so call for a motion on that resolution, and then
I'll make
vote.
the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Majority.
Yeah, all in favor, all opposed.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstentions? Just for abstention. You also have to ask, are there any abstentions? No?
No.
You usually, yeah. Yeah, normally, yeah.
So it was 502, right?
Yeah, announce the vote, announce the vote.
And the resolution passes.
502.
5-0. And 2's not here.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, we're good? All right, so we're going to move on to number 15, which are discussion topics. And one of the things that have been brought up by a number of the trustees was the discussion of the regionalization survey in the state of New York. So Trustee Jennings and Trustee Andrade are going to bring some thoughts to the table for conversation.
So, I really didn't want to discuss the survey, but we can. But I think the confusion around what I think we get to clarify as a board is the confusion around what regionalization is. Is it different than reorganization? There's, right, so we need to clarify this because it has, yes. And what does it mean for school districts opposed to, BOCES? There's a lot of different opinions out there right now, and I think I'd like to get clearer on it. And I did have a conversation with Kathy Romano today, and she clarified quite a few things for me, and I'll get back to that in the end. But I know Kelly has information that she wants to share, so I would like you could share that right now, Kel. From the BOCES perspective of it, I know.
This is why I couldn't read the paper the last time. Yeah, so we had it the last time where Dr. Varela, who's the district superintendent for the Eastern Suffolk BOCES, kind of went over it to meet it. I know we are all doing a webinar tomorrow with Nassau Suffolk school boards to kind of go over and get more clarification for the regionalization. And on 10:30 is going to be updates and findings. But really, the regionalization is to kind of almost mirror and mimic the blue ribbon, and it's really about the portrait of a graduate. So one thing that Dr. Rayner said at Nassau Suffolk School Boards is if you take your mission statement and plug that in, it kind of gives you all the answers to kind of what this survey is. And the survey is a mix of working together with the Board of Education and your superintendent to kind of go over your strengths and the tools, and the district data coordinator to kind of go over and kind of see what schools have and kind of see, does one school have more programs to another school, and kind of working to see how we all get that equal education. Because some schools may not have all the CTEs or may not have all the AP classes, and this is kind of trying to bring it all together to see what programs, or maybe not, they may not have all clubs, or they may not have all the sports. So right now, the survey is just kind of going together. It's not really giving control to Dr. Verla, because Dr. Verla is meeting with all the superintendents. So she's been meeting with all superintendents from Nassau and also from the Western Suffolk BOCES and kind of working all together. But like I said, it's kind of the elements to it. Hold on, I'm trying to do this all together. So the elements of it is to align to the Blue Ribbon Commission for critical thinkers, innovators, literature, culture, social motion, effective communicators, and global citizens. So all the questions are qualitative in it. And then there's data of other domains. And like they said, originally our date was for this Friday, but they moved it to December 6th. So kind of giving the districts kind of ways to kind of work together. But that's basically what we have. It's just basically to keep this, I know they had 3 work sessions to kind of keep the line of communications, but they're really looking for October 1st of 2025 implementation. I don't know if that will be true or not, because it all depends on what they find, but it's really just the district superintendents and the superintendents kind of working together to see how each school can align so everyone has that equal opportunity for that equal education.
May I just add a few things in there? I thought that was a great summary. I think one of the things that the state education, like when we attended, a couple of us, Trustee Smith and Trustee Krieger, attended a workshop in the summer where this was discussed. I was there as well. And one of the things that the commissioner and the deputy commissioner talked about, in addition to a disproportionality in terms of course offerings of a district like a Patchogue-Medford that can offer many different course offerings in their course catalog to a more rural district somewhere upstate that doesn't have the capacity of staff, that's one thing that they're looking at to kind of see what are districts doing. But the other thing is to share out what is working for districts so that districts can learn from each other in terms of best— as we were preparing this, we've looked at it, and the board knows that over the course of the years, I have prepared SWOT analysis for the district, which are by the respective departments, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And this is a form of that in order for us to showcase the things that we're proud of, that we do well, the threats, whether it's funding, whether it's anything else that we're concerned about, legislative unfunded mandates, whatever. We have an opportunity to share what we're concerned about and what we're proud of, and share that with the state and with other stakeholders. And so while some took the perspective of doing a survey as extra work, and it was, we took the opportunity to showcase the things that we are proud of, that we have done over the years, and we're ready to submit it. It was a lot of work. It included not just quantitative data, but qualitative data in the form of narratives describing what you're proud of and why in a multitude of areas, but three specifically. It was capacity, it was academics, and it was social and emotional strength of the district and challenges, et cetera. And so there was a lot of work that we did. We met with our admin council, all of our administrators in the district. We let them take a look at it, and we had members of the cabinet each take the lead on one of the respective areas, and we met as a cabinet to review the information. And while we have an extension till December 6th, there's nothing that they're requesting in terms of major changes. This is just right now a survey in terms of the Blue Ribbon Commission and what is the profile of a graduate and how are districts going to meet that criteria when they don't all have access to the same level of supports. And that is really the essence of where we are right now and what we as a district have done. What happens once they receive that information, we're not sure. That would be the next step if I understand it correctly. And for the record, I have my meeting with the district BOCES superintendent on Friday. Thank you.
If I may add, there is on the New York State, and NYSED, New York State Ed, nysed.gov website. There's a tab on regionalization, and all the way down at the bottom of that is another tab that says regionalization versus reorganization. And there is a PowerPoint presentation being shared amongst Facebook groups that I think has taken it is a PowerPoint presentation that was written for to present to the regents to explain how reorganization works. And reorganization has been how to do this since 1950-something or other. Patchogue-Medford School District went through that process. That's why we have two names. So this, what's that?
Sorry.
That's okay. This regionalization plan is not a reorganization. And there's a bunch of information, but yeah, it's not reorganization. So a reorganization would be a merger or a consolidation, like we merged two school districts, Patchogue and Medford, to become one, which is a long process and it's very difficult to do. So that slide deck that's being spread around in Facebook groups is just informational to show the difference between regionalization, which is what we're trying to do, which was not us, but like what the New York State Ed is trying to do, and reorganization, which no one really is going to be doing. Also, I think if maybe, Kellyanne, you could maybe address this. Some of the comments I've been hearing from people is they're concerned that this is going to be a redistribution of resources, which my understanding is that is not at all the case.
Well, my understanding is that we really don't know yet because the logistics haven't been worked out.
Yeah,
So that's.
I agree with that. I don't know what their intention of servicing a district that has less resources. They haven't divulged that. Right now, they're exploring by way of survey. What they do with this information remains to be seen. There is definitely a distinction between regionalization, which is what we're talking about, and reorganization. But how districts that are rural, upstate, with limited access to teachers, course catalogs, and funding, by nature of their size and regional area, how they're going to have the supports that a district like a Patchogue-Medford is able to accommodate in their budget remains to be seen.
I just want to, just something that we took away when we were up, where were we, in Albany? When we were in Albany, is Dr. Jones was also doing a presentation on, at that, I don't even, your presentations are blurring together, data. And somebody came up to Trustee Smith and I and said, we have a question for you guys since you're on the board. Our graduating class is 17 students. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there because I can't even wrap my head around a graduating cohort that's less than we even have in our classes. So when you take into effect that they're dealing with districts like that, where maybe the way they explained it to us in simple terms, and this was when they were just introducing it to us, was that if you have two schools upstate and they can only give Spanish because they have a Spanish teacher and kids want to take French, it's almost the equivalent of, say, if Bayport Blue Point didn't have a theater program and Pat Med did, maybe those kids could come to the Pat Med, or the same way we share a teacher between buildings, they could share a teacher between districts or different.
Well, I don't know how that would work.
I don't know how it would work, but that's the basic what they said. This is what how it explained. So there is a huge discrepancy in territories in New York State.
Yeah.
The way it was explained to me was, as we did with our ROTC program, where we needed more young people in we created a contract with another school district. So that's my understanding of what this is, they're trying to figure out how to do, is how to create the structure.
Yes, and I think the essence of this is, what do you have? What do I have? Are there any opportunities for us to talk about any partnerships whereby it's not going to cost me more, but it offers you something? But the issue is that a collaboration? At this point, my understanding, it would have to be not forced, but that you would like to do that. And so that's where the challenge comes in. We're not there yet. Right now, it's all about a directive from the commissioner for us to submit a survey about what we do, how we do it, what is our data, how do we handle transportation, how do we handle our facilities, what are our academic data, what are we doing in all these categories. Some districts have not begun the discussion of social and emotional supports with screeners, whereas we're 4 years in. So these are the things that make all of the districts different, and how can we learn from each other, and how can we support one another is the thought behind this. How that works out, we don't know yet.
Right, this is just the very, very beginning.
Yes.
Conversations.
Yes.
Yeah, just say that, because this was sent out from the BOCES, that it will just provide a platform for local education leaders to discuss and convey to NYSED the strategies and actions that they will take to ensure equitable learning opportunities for all students and the resources they'll need to achieve a goal. It also creates a direct line for individual and cooperating local districts to provide input as the state develops its legislative and budget priorities. Schools and districts may also use these planning conversations to identify and explore existing opportunities within the region.
So again, I spoke to Kathy Romano, who is our NISBA representative, to clarify some things for me, because I did see a lot of different things on Facebook and talk to different board members in different communities. So there is a lot circulating. There's the registers that are circulating with terminology and definitions that are really hard to understand, but these things, some of this has been around for a very long time, and I think it just hasn't been brought to conversation. So in these registers, when they use terminology, district superintendent, they are talking about BOCES superintendent. So I can very much see how it can be translated as the BOCES superintendent is going to be taking charge of everything. But that's not really necessarily what this means in this moment. We only know this moment right now. So I think now, because I had a lot of concerns with this, my biggest concern now is the way this was communicated. It was not communicated properly because no one understands it, and everyone's making their own decisions of what this means, and that's very scary. When we get feedback that we're not communicating something, we always look to what can we do better? How can we reach our community more? The state education department needs to do that, because this can be scary, and this is something that we need to understand so we can proceed and breathe through this and not be stressed out about it. I still have questions about the logistics. I know that from what Kathy says, the BOCES is going to be charged with kind of figuring that all out. It hasn't been worked out yet. So we're kind of saying okay to something that we don't really know if, who's paying for it, or how is it being split evenly? We don't know those logistics in this moment, and that's the truth. We're hoping, that it's worked out in the way that it will suit everybody and it's fair and equitable, but we don't know. So, and the other thing was this was passed as an emergency regulation, the first part of this. So that's scary too. The last time that happened was during the pandemic. What Kathy explained to me from NISBA, she said that it's more of an emergency notice versus an action because it's something that is being done outside of the legislative session, and that they needed to put money in a budget to plan for this. Again, nowhere in these registers, and anyone can Google a register, it's where
sort of like the
they
congressional
write down the information for the legislators to read and go through.
Yeah.
Nowhere in any of this are anything about Board of Educations. So boards of educations are not listed in here, and we are the ones that talk about the money and pass our budgets and all of that. So they just, in my opinion, they left out a lot of stakeholders, and they also left a lot of questions. So that's where I sit with this. It's not that I don't think, we should share resources. I think that's fantastic, but again, it's the rollout. Over and over, it's the rollout of how the state does this. And that's why there's so many discrepancies going on right now.
I just want to piggyback on that because I'm very big on communication. And Bernadette and I were just having a little side conversation saying how when Dr. Jones and Trustee Smith and I were up in Albany, they kind of said, this is what we're going to be sending out. Oh, superintendents, guess what? You don't know yet, but we're going to be sending you out this 50-page document that you have to fill out. So Bernadette said, well, they told us, but they didn't tell,
they told you after the fact that they were sending it out.
I know me myself, I have been keeping up with the Blue Ribbon Commission. One of my BOCES students was on the commission. I've been keeping up with that. So they've been very transparent in putting out all this, but this was the next step. But it was almost like, here's your next step, and you have to do it, and you have to do it now.
Until we got a directive.
Then all of a sudden, if you were not in Albany and you came into your office and there's a 50-page packet that you and your cabinet now have to fill out by this day, which
was essentially like 5 weeks. if
Yeah, which
not,
was a ridiculous amount of time, and they
at
did
the start
extend
of the
it.
school year.
So, you know, the transparency and the communication part of it, if we, it's general knowledge now what the Blue Ribbon Commission is working on or was working towards. There's, even lay people not in education pretty much know and have heard that term. This was never said, like, this is the next step of this is a data collecting. It just was kind of thrown out there. So I think people are confused, and rightfully so. And it is our job to watch out for our benefit and our children and our community.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's important we ask questions and that, so part of this is there's a 60-day period where you can ask questions or write back to them. Not the whole thing, but part of it. I know I was talking to Greg about that a little bit. Right, Greg? You down there?
Yeah, there's the first part, the rule that was adopted in September was adopted by emergency reg, like you said, and SAPA, the State Administrative Procedures Act, requires a 60-day comment period where individuals are free to submit comments to the Board of Regents with any issues, concerns, thoughts they may have about the regulation and potential changes or amendments or things that they may not be considering. So we're in that open period right now, I believe, still.
So we can send questions or send comments as individuals, as a board if we wanted, but parents can, anyone can comment on this and ask questions. So that's important that everyone knows. And I also just want to say one thing that I talked to Kathy about. These things are discussed at Regents meetings, which a lot of us don't watch all of them or know about them. And there's state ed lingo that we don't always know or understand. And so they get to do a better job communicating this to us, so then we can have a period to interpret it, sit with it, and understand and have the conversations. That's what's important, to have the conversations.
And I almost wonder, just from the conversations that we heard upstate, is if they didn't, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate here, sometimes districts are very secretive in their practices and stuff is working very well for them, but they're not keen on sharing them with their neighbors. So maybe in order to get the information, it had to be like hey, this is your homework, you have to do this and share.
That was part of it.
Because otherwise, you know, you may get that 50-page packet and say, I don't have time for this, I'm running a school district right now and school's starting.
Yeah. Okay, right now.
We're good? Wrap it up, move on. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 16, which is committee reports. We're going to start with buildings and operations. That's Trustee Krieger.
No, I'm not used to being first. So buildings and operations, our first meeting is on Thursday, November 7th at 4 p.m. We have a bunch of stuff that we had on the agenda. We had so much on the agenda that Mr. Mazie and I actually had to chop some off the agenda. So we will be talking about the summer, I'm like, my paper's at home, the summer 24 project updates, and then also the Bay expansion, and there was something else.
Yep, we're going to talk about the bond project as well.
The bond projects. So that is, this is a committee that I never chaired, so I'm very looking forward to working with Mr. Mazie on this one.
Good? Thank you, Trustee Krieger. All right, district-wide technology is me. First, I want to thank Mr. Richroth for doing the first half of my presentation in detail. Thank you, sir. All right, the next thing that we talked about was looking at our district logos, the importance of branding and recognition throughout the district. We looked at the current logos across the elementary schools and how disconnected they were, how every one of them was different. So one of the things we talked about is possibility using the same type of font, the same type of idea, the same type of banner, maintaining the specific animal that they use to describe the school, okay, but having a continuity from school to school so they look the same, and to ensure that somewhere in that logo, the PM, Patchogue-Medford, was somewhere in there, because at this point in time, when you look at a logo for Tremont, or you look at a logo for Medford, whatever the case may be, you don't actually know it's part of the Patchogue-Medford district unless you live in it. So that's two of the things that we're working on as far as that's concerned. And then we asked some questions about some of the things they thought were important to maintain in the branding. And, you know, the black and red color palette was very, very important to maintain that, to have a uniform but unique design for each school, as I just said, having the PM logo or a way to identify that each school is part of our district, highlighting both red and black in each of the designs. And one of the concepts were to bring the P and the M in our major logo closer together to show the continuity of Patchogue and Medford being one district. So that was pretty much what we discussed about the branding and the logo. As I said, Mr. Richworth talked specifically in detail about the new website, which looks really, really good. And that meeting was on the 22nd of October. Our next one will be on November 13th at the South Ocean Middle School Conference Room, 4:30 p.m. live. And there will also be a Zoom link for those that can't make it, so we'll have both availabilities. Okay, thank you very much for that. So now I'm going to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So when you're talking about logo, because this is lingo and verbiage that we're also using in our committee, and it could get. Right. So, like, for the elementary schools specifically, you're talking about, let's say, the giraffe.
Right, so.
The giraffe will be with the PM, and
Yes.
that would be their logo. Got it.
See how the giraffe is there, and it says
Yes,
Tremont?
but
Then-
no PM.
But we're gonna put you know,
Yes.
that was what we discussed, and James thought that was a great idea, so everybody could look at it. I know you can't see it. James, there's no way you could put that up. You don't have it, do you? I don't have it. Okay, so basically, it was just a banner. You can't see it, but it would be a banner that would say Barton Elementary, right? And then there'd be the picture of the owl in a circle. And then on the opposite side, to balance the banner, would be a PM. So when you looked at that, you know there was Barton Elementary School, the owl was the animal, and it was part of the Patchogue-Medford School District. And that would be uniform across all the schools.
Okay.
Okay?
And the PM is the PM that
The
we.
PM that's on the board.
Okay.
Okay?
It's not the right.
We can share it next month.
Yeah,
if
next,
that's
yeah,
okay.
James will bring it for us for next month. Okay? Thank you very much for asking that question. All right, so now I'm going to pass it on to the extracurricular program, which is divided into two parts, but they work together. It's going to be Trustee Jennings and Trustee Andrade for music and athletics.
So as you know, one of the things we talked about was, but it already happened, was giving the coaches access to eSchool so that they knew all about the allergies or what students had. So I know they worked on that, and now the coaches have access to the athletes and certain things for them. And then, like I said, we're talking about, I want to talk about the clubs. We're going to talk about that again because it's not equitable through every single school. So we're working on that to identify each discipline for the clubs. And we had them as like STEM, special ed, humanities, environmental, communications, intramurals, and then identify the difficulties or the areas. And then I know now Math Olympiads all 7 schools are going to have Math Olympiads. We also said that we need more of the special education students to be involved in the sports and extracurricular. So we're trying to look to maybe open that up more to those students, or maybe more unified programs. And we're talking about maybe having unified art also. And then we just talked about right now our mascot search, which our survey should be going out soon. We're starting with the students first. And then we will continue on to our surveys from there. And then our next meeting is November 20th.
That encompasses both of you? Okay, thank you. Okay, next, the Standing Committee for Finance is done by Trustee D'Onofrio, but he's not here tonight, so I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Mazie, who's the liaison.
Good evening. Trustee D'Onofrio asked me to report out. He has been traveling on business, but will get back to me when he returns. And we will have the first meeting in the early part of November, where we will convene the committee. We typically go over, each year we go over the review of the financial statements. There's a great deal of information on our website, and it's very extensive. And we take the time to really unpack it for the committee members because they're really looking to get an in-depth understanding of what our finances are in the district. And for somebody who lives and breathes it every day, it's easier to understand. But for community member who's not as up to speed on that, that's usually what we do in that first meeting. So I'm sure, in that first meeting, I'm sure that's what we'll do again this year, but once he gets back, we'll finalize the agenda, have that meeting, and report out at the next month's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mazie. Next, we have instructional programs and student support services, and that is Trustee Salazar, and he's not with us tonight, so we have Mrs. Canetti and Dr. Lucas as the liaisons.
Sure. So on October 10th, we met for the first time this year. The meeting began with introductions to all of the new members. There was a review of the committee's 7 core charges, which Trustee Salazar presented, of course, focusing on curriculum oversight, stakeholder representation, and our educational standards compliance. The committee discussed past initiatives, including the homework policy, grading policy, and class ranking that were spearheaded by the committee. Significant attention was given to the upcoming changes in the graduation requirements, particularly the shift to a single diploma system with different seals and the reduced Regents examination requirements. We spoke for a long time about the district's CTE, or Career and Technical Education program, which was highlighted as having 8 course offerings currently, and plans for expansion based on student interest. We talked about areas such as barbering, HVAC, welding, areas that we have a high interest from in our students. The committee also discussed successful community engagement initiatives, such as a parent learning series and a writing rubric committee. The committee also discussed the potential topics for the school year, which include preparing students for the digital world and the need to review and update the elementary report card system for better standards-based alignment and consistency. The meeting concluded with plans for a CTE presentation at our next meeting, which is scheduled for November 14th at South Ocean.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Okay, we're going to move on to Legislation Committee, and that is Trustee Smith.
Hey. Our meeting was on October 17th. We have a new student member. His name is Tivani. Our next meeting will be Thursday, November 7th. We started by reviewing the charge of the committee, and then went and discussed several matters. First off, we reviewed the visit that Dr. Cohen and Mr. Richroth and I had up at the high school with some employees of AT&T to look up, to do some, gather some information about the cellular service up at the high school. That was an informative walkthrough. We walked through the whole first floor of the high school, including the perimeter. And there was some intermittent service in some locations. They did find some disruptions in a couple of other locations, but they're confident that they could strengthen the service, working with Mr. Richroth, and what they have to do, they're going to try to strengthen the signal around our building. Devani also brought up that this is a concern, remains a concern for him and and the fellow students. There was a follow-up meeting with Mr. Richroth, and he'll report out at our next meeting with AT&T, and he'll report back to the committee on November 7th. There's much discussions about the smoke shops and the illegal vape shops and the illegal cannabis sales up and down 112. Specifically the smoke shop that's very close to Medford Elementary. I do know that I've reached out to the Department of Health and some contacts that I have in other areas, and I do know that one shop is on a lot of radars. What we're asking is that they limit signage. That business is legal based on the boundaries that the county established, but we're going to try to work with our legislators to try to change that so that we don't have to deal with that again. Mr. Falouzis did ask about what was going on with the Triangle by Tremont. I did go to a Medford Civic meeting recently, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But they're trying to build a new building there. We don't know what's going in it. They are expecting it to be 4 to 8 individual stores, but they don't know who the stores are. And the new owner of the property, we were informed by the owner's attorney that he has no interest in putting convenience stores or smoke shops or anything else in there. We'll see. I'll bring you, Mr. Mazie, the plans that are currently sitting in my car. I meant to get. One of the concerns that popped, there was several concerns that popped up at the Civic, but one of them, they have a catchment basin in this thing that's like 8 feet deep, designed to catch water. What could possibly go wrong? Shari shared that there's, that there could be legislation written to prohibit certain businesses from occupying a space so close to a school, but there is a lot of legislation about what can be close to a school. That I didn't understand exactly what it was, but at the Civic, they did talk about the town of Brookhaven did something with J zones and industrial zones and the new cannabis shop that new legal cannabis shop that they just green-lighted. I don't have a full understanding of it, so I don't want to say any more about it, but I plan to get some more information about it. One of the other things we're going to be talking about is foundation aid. I did have the opportunity to go to a legislative breakfast for Long Island Families Together, where I had the chance to meet Doug Smith's chief of staff and had a nice conversation with him about they're expecting the Rockefeller Institute report on foundation aid to be delivered at the beginning of December, so we'll have more information on how and if that will be refigured. We're hoping that with the reevaluation of that formula, that we'll get to increased funding. I know Bob Vecchio at New York State, Nassau Suffolk School Boards is advocating to change the funding formula from and greatly increase the number of dollars allocated per student. We're also going to try to talk about the poverty formulas. Currently, poverty level is calculated using the federal poverty level. I don't have these numbers, but they're roughly, the federal poverty level is roughly $30,000. And what we're trying to advocate for is to change the poverty formula to use the ALICE level, which considers the cost of living for a particular area. So using the ALICE levels, our area poverty would be figured at 78,000, not 38,000, roughly. Our legislative breakfast in Longwood, it's annual. It's going to be Saturday, February 1st. There's some discussion, this is a big calendar. Charter schools is another big issue. Currently, New York State Ed and SUNY Board are both able to approve charter schools. We're trying to advocate that only New York State Ed would be able to approve or deny an application because SUNY has been overriding New York State Ed and approving charters that we don't agree should be around. There's some conversations around the zero-emission buses and fuel sources for the zero-emission buses and whether they should be electric and do we have the infrastructure for it, and to be continued. I think there was some conversation about maybe including natural gas buses as an alternative. That's also up for discussion. And we shared with the committee the NYSBA-approved adopted positions that New York State school boards will be advocating for. Pam did bring up the topic of cell phone restrictions. That's also going to be a hot topic of conversation in the future. And that's about it. Oh, and I did share some information about infrastructure support to support electric buses that needs to be put in place. And that's that.
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Okay, moving on to community comments. Mr. Leva?
Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes with no sharing of minutes. You will be warned when 30 seconds are left, and you will be asked to conclude after 3 minutes. Please refrain from discussing specific students or staff members. To protect their privacy, these matters should be discussed with the appropriate administrator. All questions or comments should be addressed to the Board of Education president.
Good job. Okay, so I want to just discuss the regionalization I know some of us have spoken about it. I definitely think it's something that we should be, or you should be, listening to very carefully, because as we learn with the state, not everything is the way it seems. Lots of questions. Who's paying for this? Sharing ideas is a great thing. Sharing ideas across the board is a great thing. But we also live in different cultural areas. Bernadette, you just mentioned the Alice level of poverty. Like there's so many variables right now that, and there are so many different things that each community needs to look at. There might be something upstate. We don't need to, in Pat Med, our kids don't need to learn how to milk a cow. But maybe where they live, they do. And they might have that in their schools. Sharing other ideas, that's great. But again, is this going to turn into a forced, unfunded mandate? Are they looking to take away local control? You know, what are all these things that, you know, why is it an emergency? Why is this now suddenly an emergency? Just contact your superintendent and say, hey, listen, let's share some great ideas. What are you doing that works? And let's share them. Mrs. Canetti's great at making charts and all that stuff. You know, like, it's just, to me, I just really foresee this has been things that the state has been looking at for years, where they're trying to make us one big pot. But yet, going to Albany many times, Long Island pays for a lot of that pot. So there's just a lot of questions, and I think that we should really be very cautious and skeptical. You know, they're trying to make something look like a kindergarten, let's share, let's all be friends, let's all, you know, sit around and do, you know, our little chats and our morning meeting, but it's turning into something I think that could be very costly, be an unfunded mandate, and could take away our school boards, take away our local control. And that's a big concern for me, just reading some of this.
Good evening again, members of the dais, members of the board. Joseph Lochavo, resident of Medford lifelong. As a full disclosure, I currently do, and I have sat on the Eastern Suffolk BOCES First Supervisory District Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the past 23 years. So the comments I make tonight, and I will repeat this twice, are only on behalf of myself as a private citizen. They are not the comments representative of BOCES. They are the comments representative of only myself. I commend each and every single one of you for asking questions on this thing called regionalization and the study that will be done from it. It is your responsibility to ask those questions. In doing so, you mitigate what is called unintended consequences. And I will not say how many unintended consequences that can stem from this document. Having said that, again, I commend all of you for being suspect of this, as you should be. And you must ask those questions, as we all should, to mitigate those unintended consequences. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Good evening, all. I don't want to repeat the same things that everybody else said, but my feelings are the same. My other question regarding the regionalization plan is, have we, as the board, expressed concerns directly to the powers that be?
I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay,
Can you just
I'm sorry.
introduce yourself and
Yes, Deborah Feliciano, and I have two children in Bay Elementary and in the high school. Have we sent a letter as a district to the powers that be expressing our concerns, the concerns that we have? Will we be doing that if it hasn't been done?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
And if we are to send a letter of concern, how do we find that information? Other than sending it to you guys, but to the higher aboves?
Would you like me to? And I think I did receive an email
I
from
did,
you.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I didn't get a chance to
That's okay.
respond
That's
yet,
okay. I
but
didn't realize there was a meeting
I
today.
did read your email. It's just a lot going on
Yeah,
right this
I get it.
second. We did discuss a number of times already in our cluster meetings. One-on-one, I have a one-on-one discussion with the BOCES superintendent actually this Friday morning. This continues to be something that we are pressing all around. But there will be more to come, I'm sure, when it comes to right now. There are a lot of questions. Why now? Why do we have to do this?
Yes.
All these things are coming out. Right now, we got a directive as superintendents to complete a survey. What they do with that survey remains to be seen. So it's kind of hard to argue on something we haven't been given to do but fill out a survey. However, I assure you that I am speaking up for our district in all of the meetings that I'm attending.
I just want to say that, I mean, we love PatMed, and we love what you guys are doing, and we want it to stay that way. We don't want anything to change the way that you guys are doing things, because it is working. And so if it's not broken, why? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kevin Tulin on behalf of the Patchogue-Medford Congress of Teachers. I recently had the opportunity to go to a conference put on by the New York State United Teachers. It was called Disconnected. And it's probably the first time in my career that I was in Albany and all of the stakeholders agreed on something. So at the conference was the Council of Superintendents, New York State School Board Association, New York State PTA, SANES, and of course, NYSET. And everyone agreed that our students are distracted by their cell phones. And Common Sense Media reports that 97% of students ages 11 through 17 report that they use their cell phones 43 minutes a day on a median average in the classrooms. It's also important to note that last year in 2023, companies like Meta, which is Facebook and Insta, X, Snap, and Discord, I don't even know who they are, some of them, have spent $30 million lobbying the federal government for algorithms and other court cases that involve our students. Our students are facing unknown risks with the amount of screen time that they're using, and the amount of addiction that they have towards that, and I use that word lightly. I met with all of the building reps and a lot of the teachers across the district, and the PMCT is calling for a distraction-free school zone. We're looking for removal of earbuds, watches, and phones. And currently, your policy states that they're not allowed to be visible. But I think we all know that that is not what's actually happening. And I'm not pointing fingers. We all got to this point together. So we're looking for an AM bell to PM bell on cell phones. We understand and we recognize that parents want their children to have their cell phone on them for after-school activities, for other reasons, but we need to come up with a method on how they're not being on the student's person and not distracting them. So on behalf of the teachers, I'm asking that we take a look through the safety committee, the instructional committee, and maybe through some kind of SEL department here on how we can address our students and make this environment better for them to learn. That being said, thank you for your time and your service as board members. You guys go above and beyond in doing that.
You as well.
Thank you.
AM and PM bell, I like that.
Can I just, Sherry, before you start, sorry, Kevin, can I just ask you one question? In this conference, I'm assuming, I hope, were there suggestions? Was there, yeah, because I would be interested
a lot of
in
districts
seeing of how this is working, because I know.
It's working in a lot of our neighboring districts.
Thank
In
you,
the
Kevin.
town of Brookhaven, there are a number of districts that are already doing this.
As Dr. Jones said, there are different solutions. I know Eastern Suffolk BOCES is using lockers. I don't think in our district that would work because we change classes every 40 minutes at the high school level, 41 minutes, I believe, at the middle school level. There are districts, I know Smithtown just released these Yonder pouches, where students would be issued a pouch similar to this, and then the teachers have a key like this that you could unlock at the end of the day. So the student would always have their phone on them. I'd be happy to let you guys take a look at this. Students would always have their phone on them, and I think that would relieve, personally, I think that would relieve, like myself as a parent, I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, it would relieve that anxiety of they would have their device. We had a swatting incident at South Ocean. If something went wrong, our students were distracted, right? They were on their phones with their parents or their looking at their phone for some reason during that downtime, and they couldn't hear the instructions that were given by the teachers, or they couldn't be calmed down because they were on the phone with their parent and they were raising anxiety. If there was a different kind of emergency, I don't need students on the phone with their parents or anybody else while the fire department needs to be giving directions on where to go, right? So, and those are just examples outside of the classroom. So pouches like that would give the students that ability, the parents' ability, that their child would have their device on them all the time, but would not be accessible to them until we told them it was time for them to use them. So take a look at it. All right.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Sorry. No, that's okay. What was my clock didn't start? Okay, so I have such a big list, and the revitalization, the regionalization is my longest. But I'd like to start quickly with some conversation about policy. So there's an umbrella policy clause in our insurance for groups to use facilities. And I wanted to find out if that pertains to booster clubs as they are overseen by the superintendent and the school board, or would that be community use?
Mr. Mazie, would you?
Yep, absolutely, yes. So the insurance policy that's embedded in the facilities use policy that was done this past spring, and those are based on the recommendations we got from NYSER, our insurance company. It does pertain to all organizations. So whether it's a booster club or not, and there are levels in there depending on the type of club it is, whether they're having some kind of physical activity that takes place, you'll see higher thresholds in the form of the umbrella coverage that's required, but all the stipulations have been outlined in there specifically for them.
I would like to ask that the board perhaps take a look at that policy and the threshold for the umbrella, certainly as it pertains to athletics. I do understand that they're higher risk of injury, but I don't know how often injuries have occurred, and the $5 million threshold that is required, as well as $3 million to, do non-athletic events or things, even just sign up for Little League, they would have to spend $1,000 now to get a $3 million umbrella. So I just want to put it out there. I can't take a lot of time on that, but just something to think about. Additionally,
Can I just jump in for once? I'm sorry.
Sure, please.
Stopper time. We did discuss this this was part of last year's extracurricular. So this has been discussed, and I think we
the numbers are a lot higher than what I remember when the policy was first introduced, and I don't know if that was a one read, second read issue. I'm not 100% sure.
No, the insurance requirements were always stipulated, and when we dove into this at the behest of the extracurricular committee last December, we realized in going through this with NYSER that there were some shortfalls, and everything always comes back to it's not about ever hurting about or making it difficult for an organization. So make sure that's clear. It's always about protecting the districts and mitigating the risk. That's what it's about. So when you talk about things such as having meetings for registration or for picture taking or things of that nature, that's why the thresholds are much shorter. All right?
Well, an additional $3 million is not a little bit.
No, that's not what was stipulated.
It's $2 million,
It's-
$1 million for your regular policy, and then we could look at it. We'll talk about it for sure
Oh, yeah.
offline. I'm happy to do that, and I can send an email. It was one of my big questions for today, but I've moved into other. I also had a question regarding grading policy. Currently, it reads that if your assignment is 2 days late, you lose 40% of your grade, and that's a failing mark on 2 days, and I feel that that's a bit punitive. So wanted to put that out there just for some thinking. With regard to the regionalization, I feel that we have to be really careful not to be naive. I'm concerned that it was an emergency. I'm concerned that a lot of things are happening behind closed doors. And this sounds like road to receivership, a back door that they're trying to find. That's obviously worst case scenario, but if we don't think 5, 6, 10 chess moves down the road, we'll be in trouble. They could begin to unfund school choice. That could become an unfunded mandate. We worked really hard in this district to be financially sound. We heard our audit report tonight between Mr. Mazie and everything that Dr. Jones has done. We are in a really good position. And even if we were under an umbrella of Eastern Suffolk BOCES, that might put us in a position to have to lend teachers, perhaps, to Sachem, who had to lay people off because they couldn't afford it. You know, there are things that could happen just in our own region. We made the choice to join ROTC with Longwood and other districts. We don't need federal or state control over that. We can make those decisions for what we need, as other districts can do that as well, to find ways to manage and work together. Eastport South Manor merged, Bayport Blue Point merged, Patchogue-Medford merged, and we did that without anybody leaning over our shoulder and forcing us. We have to highlight in that report, and I'm sure you did, we have an incredibly high L population. We have a very high special education population. People come here, they buy here because we can support and help those children, and they like the community diversity that goes on here. So I also wrote down about Alice, the cost of our utilities, our transportation. It's much higher than upstate. So our taxes are not getting nearly as much as they might for what they're paying less. I am concerned. We built a whole CTE program. We did that. We just took out a bond that we're financially able to support. It's a very dangerous place for Patchogue-Medford if they're going to start taking our money away. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. That's it. Okay, so let's move on to board comments. Okay, board comments, number 18. We'll start down with Trustee Krieger.
I just want to thank Mr. Mazie and his audit team for everything they did. That was a great report, so congratulations to us again. I love the website. That was a long time coming. Homecoming was amazing. I love the involvement of all the levels and all the schools. The high school did a great job with their floats and their skits. It was a great day. And then I just wanted to say that we did have the opportunity, all of us in a row here, to go right to the NYSBA convention in the city, and it was jam-packed with seminars and information from morning to night. And the trend that I see when we go from seminar to seminar is that we're ahead of the curve in so many areas of what we do, and that's really something to be proud of. Dr. Jones, I got to see her present for the second time this year. I saw her present in August, and then again now, and like we know she was chosen for Panama. We're really doing something right here, and it's something to be proud of, and we're recognized by other places. So I just wanted to point that out for those that didn't realize it. It's great when we're in a seminar and you say, on attendance records, and Dr. Jones is on the other side of the room texting, saying, hey, we do that. And I'm like, yeah, we do that, you know. So we did take away a lot, and we do like other people's ideas, but it's nice to know that, you know, we are ahead of the curve on most things.
Trustee Smith?
Thank you. And I think we're ahead of the curve on so many things because of Dr. Jones's leadership, to be honest. There's been a lot of, I want to thank all of the electeds that came. They didn't have to do that, and it was very kind of them to come here and have spent some time with us and shake hands and take a picture. It was very appreciated. Thank you, Pam. It was very appreciated. I've been noticing a trend of like governmental bodies, us, the town of Brookhaven, New York State, the way that we're communicating and the way that our constituents are receiving information. At the Civic the other day, there was a lot of discussion around a zoning change and what happened and how it happened, and it felt really not cool the way they did that. But I understand that maybe that's their process. And now I feel it's on me to understand their process a little bit better. But we get a lot of feedback about how we communicate, and New York people not understanding the way New York State is communicating. So it's just a theme I've been noticing. How do we get better at communicating? How do we, at all levels, get better at finding the information? And it seemed to me that with the Brookhaven issue the other night, a lot of it was plain English communication that they're not using. And are we doing the same thing, and can we be better at that? It's just a thing I noticed. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jennings.
Yeah, so ditto what they said about thank you for the legislators and thank you for Pam. It's greatly appreciated. At the conference, I just want to say that the ones that I went to for the workshops are more student-led. So the one that I went to, and I know Donna and I were talking about it, I went to the one that Uniondale did, which is My Brother's Keeper. So it's something that I know Donna and we said we were going to look into maybe doing something here because the students were very powerful about that. They had a place in having mentors. The other one I went to was Sources of Strength. And it was student, like we know we have the peer leaders when they have a sixth grade and they're trained. So these are kind of peer leaders, and they do different elements and working more of on the side of suicide awareness. And it was very powerful to see that the elements that they work on and what programs that they bring. The one thing we all went to for the opening ceremonies was we met Sophia. And Sophia is an AI robot, and she had Rob Schneider, who's one of the directors, had a whole interview with Sophia the robot, and it was quite interesting. Maybe we could have her one day at our board meeting. She was kind of like a real person, but said she wouldn't replace any teachers, so that was good. And then the other one, too, I know Trustee Andrade one time, I can't remember what it was, with the Comac school. So we think, Lori, you could take a tour of Comac, because when you walk into their buildings, it's more of, it's their interbaccalaureate and different pathways. But when you walk into their school, it has like a school of law, and it's like a mock courtroom, and they have school of medicine, and forget the other schools that they have. And it's different pathways that the students can learn. They kind of start in 9th grade, and then they can learn what career they want to take. So if they want to start out and think they want to do forensic science, take a class, and then like, okay, that's not for me, and kind of work a way to kind of work how they go onto that pathway. So that was interesting to see. And then the last one that we went to was more or less another AI with the Gemini, the ChatGPT. But then the one thing we thought was, it's called Thought Exchange. And it was like a live kind of feed, so almost getting like feedback right away if there's survey or questions. And it was something interesting that I think that maybe we can look in for our district.
Vice President Andrade. Thank you, Kelly.
So thank you, Pam, for the wonderful night. It was very, very thoughtful, and we appreciate you and all that you've been doing. And thank you to the legislators. And yes, I went to most of the same things that Kelly did. So it was, if you watched Westworld, that's what Sophia was like. It was scary and creepy and kind of cool all at once. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was a good packed weekend, but it sometimes takes a while to process things. And the sessions that I went to, we didn't really talk about regionalization. And I wish that was talked about a little bit more, just as much as AI was talked about, because I think it would have clarified things a little bit better. But just for those parents that came to the mic, there are letters circulating that you can send in as a parent to state ed within the 60-day period. So if anyone has concerns or questions, it's open for you to share them, for sure. For any of us, either as board members or as parents, we can also. And that's it.
Thank you. Obviously, I want to piggyback on the thank you to everybody that came tonight to support us in the work that we do for the children of this community. It's our passion. It's something we choose to do with our time. As was said earlier, that we're taking away from our family time to provide a service to everyone else's family, but we do that with pride and honor. It's not a task, it's a passion. So understand that. Now, I'd like to thank my friend Pam for doing something tonight that I don't think's ever, I've been here. She brought dinner for everybody, she cleaned up, she made little doggy bags, she gave us gifts. It's great to be appreciated and understand that people see what we do and appreciate why we do it. As far as the conference was concerned, one of the probably the most proud thing I had as president of the board is that we went up there to 7 members on this committee, on this board of education. 5 of us were able to go. Was it 5 or 6?
6.
6 of us went to go, and Teresa, brand new district clerk, went, and she sucked up like a sponge. She went everywhere, asked every question, introduced herself to people, and she put the octopus paws out there to try to make sure that she knew where the contacts were, and it was a pleasure to watch her do that. I went to safety committee because I'm on our district safety committee, and I went to see what the state had to say. And to piggyback on what Jennifer Krieger said, they're making recommendations on what we should do, and we're already doing them into the next step. So that is amazing, the foresight by Dr. Jones, the cabinet, the security team, that we're on the cutting edge of everything. The other thing that was unbelievable was you would see some districts went with one person. Some districts didn't go. So then you had one district or 2 that went with one person, and it wasn't even a board member, it would just be the superintendent. And then there'd be 1 or 2. We had almost our entire board there, and when I went to the module on the relationship between the Board of Education and the superintendent, it was like I was sitting in a room listening to these moderators tell us what we should do, and it's everything we do. We have communication. We talk almost, sometimes they don't talk for weeks, I'm not kidding, in between meetings. We talk every day. At some point during the day, somebody's talking to somebody about a school thing, and it gets back to the superintendent, she gets involved, to get back, hold on a second, I'll get back to you 5 minutes. In 5 minutes to the minute, we get the email, we get the text message, we know what's going on. So going with what everybody said tonight, the key to success is the communication that goes on, and it starts at this table, starting with the attorneys, the cabinet, Dr. Jones, the trustees, everybody works together. And that's what makes me so proud of this board, is that we're very, very functional. The word up there was dysfunctional. Okay, am I lying?
No.
The word up there was dysfunctional. So we've got that all covered. So I'm very appreciative of everything that everybody does, the support from the community. But I just want one comment. Those of you that have been keeping score and following along, you know that we put in 2 resolutions to New York State School Boards Association this year. 2 of them were presented. One of them did very well. We didn't pass. We were at 49 for, 51% against. But we had a very strong showing, and that was on looking at recess as an alternative to instructional minutes, and we were asked to bring it back next year. It didn't make it this year, but we were asked to bring it back, right? We're happy about that? The next thing that was really good was the field testing, where it became a local decision to minimize it without penalty to any of our administrators. And that passed. They liked it. It really went well. So after that was all done, we're all celebrating that we passed the resolution. That's kind of like a big deal. And then Diana goes, "What happens now?" So what does it really mean? So what Vice President Andrade did was she reached out to Brian Fessler, who's the Director of Governmental Relations for the State of New York, for School Boards Association. And Diana asked him, "What's the next steps? What do we do now? What happens? What do we need to make sure this passes?" And he responded to her. I'm going to read it word for word. "Thank you, Diana and Mark, for participating in the process. My team and I will be discussing the newly adopted positions over the next few months in preparation for the start of the new year. As this is likely more state educational department focused, meaning ours, okay, I would anticipate that our first step would be to share our new official position. So NYSBA's official position is to back what we brought to the table with them, and then determine the next steps based on their reaction and response. If and when we see an opportunity for broader and more direct member involvement, we will share with the membership. Beyond that, I would suggest that you share your board's position with your regent and your state legislators. So don't you know, we're already drawing up the packet to go to Regent Tillis, and if I had everything ready tonight, I would have handed it out one by one to everybody that was here. But we're making inroads, we're making changes, we're looking to make sure our community gets everything they need, and again, we thank you for your support in everything that we do, and just remember that, you know, nobody does it like Pat Med, and it's kids always first. Thank you.
Mark, I'd like to add, Doug Smith we are a very, very tiny portion of his district.
Okay.
He's the ranking member of the Education Committee. So Doug Smith.
So he'll be getting a letter.
Mark, I just wanted to add that had Tom not been called away for a business trip overseas, he would have been with us, and we would have had we did have 100% of our district superintendent and clerk registered for the conference.
We're all in. Okay. So I guess now we make a motion for an adjournment? I'll make a motion. Who said wonderful?